While I'm not conquering the summit of Mount Everest, I am conquering a summit on the Kokoda Trail. Let me show you which one. I'm Rosario Huzavita, a 17-year-old student in Year 12 at the Sanford Valley Steiner School. In Year 12, we have to do a senior research project which goes over the entire year, and I've chosen to walk the Kokoda Trail. And I would like to continue showing you my preparations to walk this track. So, we start in Brisbane, Australia, on the east coast. We fly up to Port Moresby, which is about a 2,092 kilometre journey. Once we get to Port Moresby, we stay there for one night. We then fly up to Kokoda, which is about 96 kilometers north of Port Moresby, to stay there for one night and prepare for the journey ahead. The next day, we start walking up the ridge to our next camping site at Alola, which is at an altitude of 1,340 meters. Once we get there, we stay there for the night and keep walking the next morning to Templeton's at 1,850 meter altitude. This is just below the highest point on the ridge, which is the ridge of Mount Bellani, 2,190 meters. Once we reach this peak, we start descending towards our next camping site, which is at an altitude of 1,220 meters. So a significant drop. The next morning, we start rising up again, just a slight bit, to then drop even further down to 850 meters at Minari, where we camp for the next night. When we get there, we have to just make a small climb to the top of this peak to then drop back into the valley and climb a significant peak up to Nauru at 950 meters. Getting to this peak is going to probably be a very hard thing to do after having already done this massive climb. Getting up the next morning, we then start climbing again to the top of Marguli range, which is at 1,350 meters, to then drop down to our next camping site at 850 meters. This is the second last camping site for my trip, and we'll probably be very exhausted by then. So then we keep dropping down into the valley, and then we got a big climb ahead of us on the second last day to our next peak at 850 meters, to then drop to our last camping site at Goodwater Camp at 440 meters. This is the last camping site, which will be hopefully an enjoyable time. Then the next day, our last day of trekking, we walk to Owa's Corner, where we stop for the last time at 685 meters. That's where we then get picked up by a bus and get driven back down to Port Moresby, 50 k's south of Owa's Corner. You can only walk the Kokoda track with an organised group. And since I've chosen this for my senior research project for school, I will need to fundraise for it and would like to please ask you for your support. Thank you.